Once again, we are back on Egmont Soch ki Tea Talk Train of Thought with a series of an episode with Dr. Partha Mukherjee, who is on board of director with Mahindra Aerospace, Gibbs Aeros, and he was part of various substantial commercial businesses and the complex project Amendment Educator in various universities in Australia. So, welcome back to this Tea Talk Egmont Soch ki. So now, in fact, being part of a couple of decades, FMCG and then into financial services, then you went to Australia and started with an government organization, public sector. So can you please share that experience and what made you to plunge into the public sector like?
Yeah, interesting. Again, you will see very diversified areas that I worked. Because in India or during the India-based tenures, I never worked in a public sector. But in Australia, I realized that public sector is one of the strongest sector to work with, because unlike India, the public sector is very well developed. Culture of professionalism is very strong. They can attract the best talents. They pay the best salaries. And they have got plenty of resources and money to actually invest. So it's a sector of working, of a desirable sector to work. So I was lucky to get a break in working in that sector. So I joined this company, this sector, which is called, that time it was called Rail Corp. Later it became Sydney Train. So and it became a part of the Ministry of Transport. So it was a very interesting journey because all my life I actually did management, but when I joined the public sector, it was in the engineering side. Okay, but it was very challenging because. Though I'm from IIT Kharagpur, but I never did an engineering job. So certainly I'm amongst professional engineers. It was in the signaling team and very, very highly sophisticated signaling team. But that was a good grounding. And then from there, I moved into major projects. So I delivered big projects and smaller, medium-sized projects as part of a team in the Sydney Train and Rail Corp. Overall it was very interesting. Before I moved on to the other parts of the same organization, like I was head of research, because the train services needed continuous monitoring of the customer satisfactions of the public service, and the research was very important. So I headed the research, and that was a very good opportunity because I did research in Colgate and in Bulsara and other places. And then that research experience helped to do research for train commuters. And of course, then later I became also the secretariat for the COO's office. And so I conducted facilitated the meeting for the Rail Corp of the Sydney Trains board, where the CEO and the direct reports, and we supported, my team supported the secretariat function of the board. So it was very, very enriching experience. So I didn't find any major challenge except the work environment is different, because there are Westerners and there are foreigners from various countries, which all blends in Sydney. And then in your work,
this cultural shift and being part of a different culture, diversified culture. So how you could cope up with that great diversity?
Yeah, that is the biggest challenge when you work with people from diverse background. First is to familiarize yourself. So self-awareness is very important, and awareness of your surrounding is very important. So in the leadership principles, we teach that the leadership starts with self-awareness and awareness of yourself to others. So because I knew about those conceptual theoretical framework, it was easy for me to execute. So spend time with people not only on work, but in the canteens or in the coffee shops, learning, someone comes from Philippines. How did they grow up and how did they conduct businesses? And someone came from UK and, how did they did they grew up. So those ones very quickly when you invest, when you invest in people very quickly, then you can get to know the culture and the diversity.
And Dr. Partha, also you're so busy, like being part of the public sector and different. You had been to Australia and part of that diversity of the culture, which is concerned. And then you also took plunge into being part of doing a PhD, like. So how you could manage your PhD and this working, and what were the challenges which you came across?
That was one of the nightmares of my life. PhD is not easy because you need a lot of research to be done. You have to read writings, and it's not a one-day job. It's several years of work. So I was working full time, and initially I enrolled as a full-time student. Then I had to convert that into part-time. PhD. So really speaking, when you're doing part-time during Monday to Fridays, actually you're doing full-time on Saturday, Sundays and any holidays. So those years, I remember I will lock myself in my study room from morning till the night. And it was challenging because I won't have time for my family. So those are the challenges, But I think I could do that because my grooming in India was that we could work hard.
Correct.
We could work for 10 hours, 12 hours regularly for years together. I think that helped me to complete my PhD because I could work for 8 hours Monday to Friday, and the rest of the time I could work 10 to 12 hours on my PhD.
Great.
Yeah.
In fact, I think by being part of the public sector, you could, I think, easily navigated through PhD. And now, in fact, from consumer durable to FMCG to service sector and then into public sector, then how come suddenly shifting in gear to an education like?
The education line was again, as I told you, my passion. In the previous episodes, I talked about that. I think I was a product of the gratitude of and the investment of my school teachers and later some of the university professors. So I wanted to always give back. I wanted to give back to the society and especially the children. So it was more of a passion. It was my second job. But when I turned 60, I knew most of my friends in my WhatsApp group, they retired. And there's no retirement in Australia, so I have to decide when I want to retire.
Correct.
So I said I'll probably retire when I'm late 60s or maybe 70. So, but I didn't want to do 60 to 60, late 60s or 60 to 70. I didn't want to do the same thing 9 to 5. So I decided that I will do something different instead of 9 to 5. And the best thing was that I was already 30 years plus in education, teaching in the management universities and institutions. I thought the education will be a good change in gear because education is not 9 to 5. It's only the contact hours. So if my classes are in the afternoon, I go to the university in the afternoon. The rest of the time I can work from home. So there's no pressure that I need to get up every day at 7 o'clock or, So that was a conscious decision. That was the only conscious decision that I will shift into education.
Good, great. I think the excellent insights what we're getting from Dr. Partha Mukherjee, like how basically if you're passionate, committed, dedicated, and you're more focused, that's the reason we could see changing gear from FMCG to financial services to the public sector and doing his PhD in that time process. And also part of an education, I think is a great interesting insight to what we're getting from the story of Dr. Partha Mukherjee for TikTok audience. Do catch up with Dr. Partha Mukherjee in our next episode of TikTok Soch to more insights to know more insights for the education which is concerned how the things have transformed over a period of time. So thanks a lot for being part of this show. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you.